Hi, everyone. This is your self-awareness activity for the week of May 12th. By the way, for those of you who sent me notification that you'd like to be involved in a live feature coming up soon with these, I do have the list, and as soon as I've got it sorted out, I will let you know. Still working on a few technical details. But for now, these are the cards for this coming week. Loss and liberation. If you would like to take a screenshot. Loss or liberation is the thought you're being asked to consider. Every time we lose something or someone, there's also liberation from something. Time constraints, emotional or financial investment, obligation, responsibility, a role we've taken on. We choose at any given moment to focus on whether or not we perceive the loss or the liberation. One is heavy, one is light. Sometimes we're so used to the weight of loss that initially the loss creates fear instead of potential relief. Sometimes we have to look at the judgments and the emotions the loss brings up before we can appreciate the liberation. So I would say keep in mind this week as you're going through your regular activity, or if you are inclined to sit and write about it or reflect on it, think about loss and liberation in terms of the different ways it's felt, whether or not loss has been a theme for you, whether or not it's been traumatic for you, or whether or not it's been something that's just kind of been a natural part of life for you. And the other thing that I would look at is, again, the liberation aspect of it, I think, is very interesting. I know there have been times when, at the time, all I could experience was loss. And then later, I'm thinking of a particular relationship, I was so grateful that I lost that relationship because it would have been really, really challenging for me. In ways that I had not anticipated at the time that I was engaged in the relationship. So the idea of the liberation didn't really come until much later, and it was more like, phew, dodged a bullet there. But again, did I experience it as actual liberation in the aftermath of it? No, but I felt as though I had been released from a potential constraint by having gone through the loss. So sometimes it's actually really nice, especially if we haven't made peace with losing something or someone, because something can also be a job, right? Or really concrete things. Sometimes it's really only in reflecting back that we look at it and we realize that we haven't completely processed the loss of it, the feel of the loss, and the emotions around loss, because there can be a lot of emotions around loss. There can be resentment, there can be anger, there can still be heavy grief, which is different than loss. There can be resentment, there can be shame, there can be so many different emotions that come up when we experience loss in a situation. So it's always a great thing to process that out, because sometimes those emotions can just lay below the surface of loss. We don't realize we're carrying that heavy energy around. So the energy you're being asked to embrace, this is an interesting one because it's actually many different energies all at once in this, and I'll explain it. Structured free flow. Think about your day ahead of time and decide on what steps, formula, or pattern you'd like to use. It's like placing numbered dance steps on the floor so that you have a rough idea where your feet are aiming. Set a few anchor points to keep the general direction mapped out. One example might be rituals around certain things or setting a timeline. Now, let whatever activity you're engaging in flow into that structure you've created. So, normally what I would say is this one. Structured free flow, it's a combination of attitudes, because within that there is a clear intention that is being defined. There is the determination to continue with something. So it's more than just an intention. It's actually setting it up in a way that is logical. Because it's logical because it's how you can see fitting it into your life. So there's a certain amount of reasoning that goes with it, a certain amount of logic. And then the structured free flow within those anchor points, or the structure that you set up, what you get to do is you get to be free to experiment, knowing that you've got those anchor points keeping you in line. So you can then, within that structured free flow, let yourself be a little bit more liberated, liberated in terms of how you process and how you progress. Now, if you're doing it in relation to the awareness activity, it can be really clear. So if, for example, the awareness activity is today, notice your senses. Well, okay, that's pretty easy to put into a structured free flow. All right. Every time I eat today, I'm going to pay attention to where I'm sitting, what the air is like, what the food looks like. Okay, so that brings you into your senses. But now look at the awareness exercise or the awareness activity that you've got for this week coming, and that is, do you want the problem or do you want the solution? So let's read the card and then see how it's going to fit in. Today, whenever you find yourself complaining about something or someone, stop and ask yourself, do I want the problem or do I want the solution? Answer honestly. You may be surprised at what your response is. Remember not to judge or blame yourself. Honestly acknowledge what you feel and then notice what happens. Okay? Now, how would you apply creating a structured free flow around that? Because it's basically just saying, well, notice whenever you notice yourself complaining, do this. So it looks like you've already got your free flow in here. But now let's take it up a step. Excuse me. And how would we do that? I would say you could create all sorts of things for yourself, right? I'm presenting it to you the way I'm thinking about it now in the moment. But the way I would look at this is, whenever I find myself complaining about someone, all right, so you know what? Sometimes we have those thoughts run through our mind and we don't even realize we're doing them. So that's how I would use the structured free flow here. I would say, okay, I'm going to take certain anchor points during my day. Depending upon how really active I want to be with this exercise, I might say, okay, I'm going to set my phone and I'm going to say every 2 hours, I'm going to stop and I'm going to reflect on what my mind has been doing. Have I been complaining about something or someone? Okay. And then I'm going to ask myself, all right, so this is perfect. Now I get to say, what is the problem? And do I want the solution to it? Do I want the problem? Do I want the solution? And again, you might find yourself really surprised. I remember saying to myself once, was I ready to let go of my mother? And no, it wasn't my mother, sorry. It was at a time when I was smoking. And it was I ready to give it up? And the answer was no, I was not. But then I asked why, okay, because that was the problem. Did I want the problem? Did I want the solution? I wanted the problem. Why did I want the problem? I wanted the problem because my mother was gone and smoking was a connection to my mother. So because my mother was a smoker for my whole life and for her whole life. And it gave me the opportunity in that moment to understand what my connection to smoking was. If I had just said, yes, of course I want to be gone, I want to be finished with smoking because I know it's this, that, and the other thing, I would not have gotten into that underlying connection for me, that reason for me, that was a large part of the reason why I smoked. So that's why it's super important to be honest. Now, again, the structured free flow, you can just use it as a way to, you don't even have to use it specifically in this case for the awareness activity if it doesn't seem to really connect so much. But what you can do is you can say, all right, I'm embracing the structured free flow, and I'm going to use it now as a way to help myself stay aware of when my mind starts going into complaining about situations, people, myself, whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be really mindful to make sure that I am doing meditations throughout the day, short, structured meditations throughout the day to help keep me aware that I am in observer mode so that I will notice these things coming up. That's another way to approach it as well. All right, my friends, that is it for now. Play with it, experiment with it, see what comes off the cards, what jumps out at you, and how you would like to tailor this for your particular life, for your week, for what you're interested in, how you want to do it. Okay? They're meant for you to be able to play with them, and I'm just giving you suggestions. You do what works for you. Okay? That's it for now. Take care.